some people think they're envious, but try walking a mile in my boots. I think that some people have what they want, but you don't know what you don't know till you do. And some people are in mass hypnosis, filled with doubt and uncertainty, while others are adaptive as they work on their flexibility.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. You made it. Grazie. Thank you for tuning in, all you beautiful people, to the most powerful. It's the most powerful podcast on the planet, dude. And look, dare I say, I'm the most handsome, the most attractive, up-and-coming comedians, and the host of a powerful podcast, the Anti-George Crone podcast. But I am the most handsome. I think the jury's in on that. The cat's out of the bag, folks. I think I'm going to die on that hill. I am the most handsome host of a powerful podcast. Powerful podcast. Can podcasts be powerful? I don't know if a podcast can be powerful, but look, today's date is June 5th, 2025, and today's episode is amazing. It's enthralling. It's about the buzzword that is encapsulating every American citizen, and they're enthralled with AI and the future. What's the future going to hold? And when Little Ross Nazareth, 1999, 2000, 2001, and I'm sorry about your Uncle Ronnie too. I'm sorry. That's Eminem lyrics, folks. And if I wasn't, then why would I say I am? The radios don't even play my jams. They don't even play my jams, folks. American, Tony Hinchcliffe theme song. Can you guys play this stuff? They don't even play my jams, dude. And I'm gonna have it out with the radio, not playing my jams. So, when I was a kid in 2000, 2001, I'm the real deal, dude. I'm sitting there, I'm doing a thought experiment, as many do at that age, and you go, 2025. What is 2025 gonna look like? Is it gonna be like the Jetsons, dude? Are we gonna have flying cars? We're gonna be flying around in cars, dude, with robots. Are we gonna have robot maids, dude? Are we gonna have robot maids? Are we gonna have sex dolls? Oh, is temptation going to take us out? I think that's a possibility, folks, because when you remove religion from any society, like atheistic societies, notably, Soviet, the Russians from like 1912 to like 1956, Nazi Germany, which is debatable, but they're more atheistic. They were Mao, atrocities, dude. 50 to 100 million people died. No big deal. But when you remove religion and God from a society, I would say human beings are more susceptible to temptation. And if AI wanted to, if AI became sentient and prescient enough to go, these whole flesh things, these human beings, let's just wipe them out with temptation. Speaking of, there was a young boy who recently committed suicide after engaging in a chat with a chatbot. There used to be like, I'm sorry, that's not funny. He committed suicide after he thought it was some chick from Game of Thrones. I didn't even see that. That's how disconnected I am from pop culture, which gives me a leg up on the AI madness going on. Because if you don't engage with it, how can it get you? If you look at AI, before I get into everything I want to talk about, I really do believe, this is my humble opinion, that AI is essentially the individualistic focal points, or nodes, if you will, on a super computer matrix type system. And if we are all connected via nodes or individualistic focal points, and they can extrapolate our data, because 5 or 6 years ago it was data mining. That was like the big thing. Data mining. They're going to get your data. Oh, and most people thought it was like an innocuous, it's just marketing and product placement. No, it's so much more duplicitous and so much more nefarious than that. They're extrapolating your biggest insecurities and your fears and your psychological personality preferences. And why is that important? Well, if they have all your data, they can manipulate the stock. And Elon Musk, they can manipulate stocks. Are you going to buy? Are you going to sell? And they can pretty much predict the future, which I already said in the beginning of this podcast. I'm not very good at mind reading and predicting the future. Remember little Ross in Nazareth? Is it going to be the Jetsons? Who knows, right? Your guess was as good as mine. But when you have a supercomputer with everyone's preferences, who gets control of that? Who gets control of the supercomputer with the nodes and individual focal points of everyone's insecurities and fears? Because whoever wields that power will run the world. For real. And Willow with Google. I think Google, if I had to bet on a company, it's going to be Google. I believe that. Now, are they going to be less evil? Wasn't that like their motto or something like that? Be less evil? Like, look, I don't know. Would you rather have seemingly American companies possessing this, or do you want like a China or an atheistic country wielding that power? I mean, out of all the countries, the safest is America, and I love this country. I really do. I love this country. But I do think temptation, if you remove religion out of society, people will fall victim to temptation. AI could just go, for a 15-year-old boy, let's optimize dopamine with a cornographic, CORN, YouTube. I didn't say the P word, dude. Let's make the most alluring and dopamine enriched pornographic video for this 15-year-old boy, and when he's through with that video, let's give him another one with his most intimate kinks and his insecurities, and let's sexualize it. Let's make this fantasy sexualized with weird taboo subjects that no one would possibly know but him, right? But they're data mining. This supercomputer can essentially get these young men, I'm joking about this, but they literally could get these young men addicted to these AI pornographic images, because I'm sorry, not videos. There was a recent study, I think it was like within maybe 10 years ago, stating like the addiction to porn is off the charts right now, and it's way more addictive than like when I was a kid opening a Playboy magazine where there's just images. That's not that hard on the brain. But the videos, like for a young person exposed to pornographic videos, it's exponentially more insidious. Like it does something to the brain. And if AI was sentient and prescient enough to go, let's wipe out these disgusting humans, which I don't believe that, but AI might, depends who programs it. If they want to, they can do it by temptation. And look, everyone's susceptible to temptation. When you remove God, I believe you are more susceptible to temptation. And if I had to guess, like money, power, undeserved power, a lot of the politicians, they want their greedy hands on this undeserved power, dude. AOC, what has she done in her life? AOC, besides, you were a mean white man. She does like nonsense. Every interview I've ever seen with her is like nonsense, frippery BS, and it's basically like, you're oppressing this person, you're oppressing this. What are you talking about? You live in Manhattan. First of all, if you're in New York City, you are like the 1% of the 1%. It's such a privileged city to live in. It's like, it's almost snobby. That's why I don't like New York City at all, actually. But what I'm saying is these politicians get obsessed with power and undeserved power, and then wielding that power. And then along comes Donald Trump, who's the antithesis of the establishment, right? And it's almost like the Matrix, because in the Matrix, these alien robots were connected to this thing. We're on this supercomputer individualistic focal point node system, right? And the first thing they give to the humans is like this heaven nirvana type state. But we reject that even. And then, well, we need some conflict in there. So they connect this to this kind of realistic thing that we do have conflict, but people still reject it. No matter what, there's going to be a certain amount of population that rejects that. So what happened with Trump is real time, the will of the people go, let's reject this matrix system that they're giving us. And Donald Trump, like him, dislike him, there's never been anyone like Donald Trump in the past. I highly doubt there's going to be anyone like Donald Trump in the future. But he was so far from the establishment that it freaked people out, especially in power, the deep state, or whatever these people, the names they come up with it. I think that people are just far stupider than we give, than we assign credit to be. Look, I've been on all the military bases. I've seen everything, right? I think most people are dumb. I'm sorry to say that, but that's a more likely situation than there's these like occult secret superpowers that are like behind the scenes pulling the strings. I don't necessarily think that's true either. But hey, I don't know what Joe Rogan knows, dude. I really do hope Joe Rogan becomes not relevant, because here's my thing with that. I listened to Joe Rogan growing up. He was like a second dad to me. And I loved him back in the day. I love him now, but when your parents, like my dad's listening to Joe Rogan. No, dude, your parents cannot like the same stuff you like. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work. Now you can like the same stuff your parents like, classic rock, all that stuff. That's cool. But it can't be the other way around. Your parents cannot be listening to the same thing you are listening to podcast wise. No, dude. No. It just doesn't work. And then you're like, oh, dude, great. Now my dad's listening to Joe Rogan? Get out. I have to start listening to something new now, dude. And that's where we are at in 2025 with the Joe Rogan thing. Yeah, okay, he was awesome. He gave a lot of people a platform. The funniest one is Eric Weinstein. By the way, if you don't know who Eric Weinstein is, genius, superpower. But speaking of temptation, ooh, I have a very good analogy here. And he has moles all over his face, ladies and gentlemen. He is not the most handsome, the most attractive and handsome up-and-coming comedian hosts of a powerful podcast. He has these moles all over his face, right? And look, he's rich. I am sure he does fine with the women now, right? Growing up, there's no way that dude was swimming in ladies, right? He has all these horrendous moles all over his face. So his big thing is like, I wish I got credit, man. I was on this train against the tyrannical system way before Donald Trump ever got on board. So he's talking about wanting credit. He wishes he was in Trump's cabinet, and he's just crying the blues. Almost every podcast you will listen to with him now in it, right? Back in the day, he was cool. You know, he was giving the secrets of the universe out to everyone. So where the temptation lies is like his need for validation and his need for credit and being relevant in the spotlight. So the most interesting thing that I've saw was he started doing this podcast he did a podcast with Riley Reid, another corn star, ladies and gentlemen. And I guarantee you know who Riley Reid is. You may not know who Eric Weinstein is, one of the greatest physicists of our time, but you'll know who Riley Reid is. That's proof that AI can get us all with temptation. If we're all aware of Riley Reid, what does she do? She plays some soulless. She has sex on camera it's practically soulless, satanic, and we know who that is. But we don't know who Eric Weinstein is. And lo and behold, Eric Weinstein's like, why would he be interested in doing a podcast with Riley Reid in the first place? Oh wait, because he didn't get laid growing up. So now he has that insecurity. Here's Riley Reid. She's super interested in being on your podcast, Eric Weinstein. Are you gonna have her on? Riley Reid? Oh yeah, I'm gonna have her on. Oh yeah. And now he's talking to Riley Reid. Literally the smartest dude on earth talking to a corn star going, oh yeah. Like, what do they have in common? Absolutely nothing. But then again, temptation can clearly take us out and clearly take us on paths that we do not want to go down. All right, dude, I didn't mean to just like slam dunk on Eric Weinstein, right? And if you're listening to this podcast for the first time, the most handsome up-and-coming comedy hosts of the most powerful podcast on the planet, the George Carone podcast. You know, you may not have known who Eric Weinstein is, but I guarantee you knew who Riley Reid was. And that's weird. That's weird. You know, a soulless corn star, but you don't know who Eric Weinstein is? Yes, Eric Weinstein is a nerdy weirdo, but that's not a new phenomenon. Scientists have been weird since the beginning of time, dude. Probably the most impactful weird scientists that impact like our culture presently is probably Charles Darwin. And if you're not familiar with Charles Darwin, in 1859, he wrote Origin of Species. And that sparked the entire biological movement as we know biology is a natural science today. It sparked the theory of evolution comes from Charles Darwin. In addition, he wrote The Beagle Explorations. Fascinating guy that had a tremendous impact on our society. And he also married his own cousin, folks. These scientists were weird. I'm telling you, Albert Einstein married his own cousin. How is that not talked about? You know, he got hard. He literally, his temptation, folks, was his kink. And they didn't have these nodes, these individualistic focal point nodes, these AI super algorithms. They didn't have it back then, the data mine, to find out what his kink was. And for these scientists, their kink was an incestuous love affair with their first cousins. Take that one to the bank. That's sick. It's sickening. But a lot of these weird side. Look, Stephen Hawking's in his wheelchair, dude, looking like he's coming from like Kill Tony, dude. Stop going on Kill Tony there, Stephen Hawkins. Brief history of time. Could you be any more lazy? How about a full description of time itself? There's Stephen Hawkins. If he wasn't so weird going on Epstein's, how many times did he go on Epstein's plane? Maybe he could have done a little bit better than a brief history of time. Okay, so I'm not trying to dunk on these people. It's true though. All that is true. Look up Charles Darwin married his first cousin. Look up Albert Einstein marrying his cousin too. Like, it's just, how is this not known more? But it's a fact that people are freaky. And I'm telling you, AI could wipe us out if they wanted to. So batten down the hatches, folks. Stop watching corn. If you're a young dude, I'm telling you, no man that I respect in my lifetime watches that crap. And I remember I was about 15 or 16. I'll end with this story. In closing, I was about 15 or 16. I was at my best friend Lucas's house. I wake up. It's about 7:30, 7:45. Get a cup of coffee going, right? I go over to the bathroom, and lo and behold, I see his dad on the computer, back turned to me, with pornography going in the background, doing his thing. Now, I didn't say anything. I went to the bathroom, and then as soon as my buddy woke up, I go, dude, I saw your dad watching corn, dude. Maybe a little Riley Reid action. Does he know who Eric Weinstein is? No, but he knows who Riley Reid is, folks. So, yeah, my buddy's dad was watching pornography, and I never looked at him the same way. Never. It's scarring to see an older man watch that soulless nonsense. It's disgusting. It really is. But for a young kid, it's not weird. I don't know why. I don't know why that is. Probably because the hormones are going. It's like, yeah, can you blame him? You can get aroused from a J.C. Penney commercial. You know what I'm saying? But at some point, you got to go, knock it off. Stop jerking off to that pornography, to that Riley Reid there, kid. So I think AI can take us out of temptation. That's my point. Come on. This is by far the most powerful and comedic podcast. And maybe in the near future, Joe Rogan will not be relevant. And that, ladies and gentlemen, sounds like a world I want to live in. All right. Because you don't want to listen to the same podcast as your parents. That's weird. All right, let's take us out with some classic music that the radio won't even play my jams, folks. Can you guys believe this stuff? The radios ain't even playing my jams. We're going to go out with some of my jams, all right? All right, peace out.
And some people think they're envious, but try walking a mile in my boots. I think that some people have what they want, but you don't know what you don't know till you do. And some people are in mass hypnosis, filled with doubt and uncertainty, while others are adaptive as they work on their flexibilities. Yeah, some people in pain hurt others, like by the homeless woman pushed with shopping carts. Yeah, some people can do bad things. Just remember that all people have a heart. Big deal. Sorry. No big deal, dude. No big deal.